Coming to you from the Black Swan Media Studios, this is Fireside Chats, talking to the real difference makers in the world. Now, here is your host, John Crump.
And we are on the air. Happy Thursday, our last live stream of the week, and it cannot come any sooner. It is my Friday, kinda. I gotta write some more articles, so my work never ends. Hi out there, Joe Drag, who is a member of our YouTube army, our YouTube militia. You can join too by hitting that join button down below that you can see, and your nominal donation can help me. I just want to start out right now with something very serious. I want to ask everyone to pray for Bella. I just want everyone to just the power of prayer. I don't know. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but everyone just do it. Yeah. So with that out of the way, I just want to remind everyone I have a Patreon at patreon.com/John Crump, where you can help support me. We are brought to you by Tusk. Tusk is the universal settlement coin, which is the only gun-friendly cryptocurrency in the world. It's made specifically for fast processing, and I have some exciting news that they are very close in getting their processing software written. We are also sponsored by Heavenly Natural Products. This is their C60, their avocado oil. Avocados are very healthy for you. So I don't know why you wouldn't take it, and I hope you're protecting your immune system just like you're protecting your 2A rights. One way to boost it is with avocado oil, like C60 products. They have 172 times more effectiveness against oxidative radicals than vitamin C. So avocado oil is better for you than vitamin C. People would try Heavenly C60 fill. Distinctive, immediate increase of energy and endurance, and it really does. I do a lot of writing, and it really has helped me. The product is amazing. Past year, they have over 10,000 new customers that have tried the Heavenly Natural product and became customers. This amazing number. This is an amazing number considering 2020, because it's been kind of crazy. If you go to heavenlyc60.com and use code Crumpy, you get 20% off. All right, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and introduce our guest. Everyone's been wondering about what's been going on in the United States, but we don't really talk too much about Canada on the show. So I need to have a Canadian gun rights activist on the show. Oh, by the way, before we get into that, check out Hank Strange. 2020 was Hell in a Handbasket patch. You can get that over at hankstrange.com. He also sent me this like little gun here, which I had to build, which is kind of cool. And he sent me a bunch of shirts and patches and stickers and everything. So thank you, Hank Strange. Did Hank too? We are joined today by a Canadian gun rights activist. I know people didn't think they had Canadian gun rights activists, but they do. But before that, my John Wick and this dog says, let's talk about Canada. So let's go ahead and talk about Canada. What is up, Mike?
Hey, John, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect.
Oh, Mike, I don't know if I called
First of all, I'd like to say that as much as I'm a gun rights activist, I'm definitely not a professional activist. We do have groups in Canada for that, like the CCFR, which has done amazing things for Canadian firearms owners. When it comes down to it now, almost every firearms owner in Canada has to be a guns rights activist. The Liberal government has time and time again tried to strip us of our firearms through both laws, and then this previous year, they brought out what they call an order in council. So for you Americans, that would pretty much be like a presidential order that just said, we're going to do whatever we want, and you don't have anything to say about it. So in that, they banned approximately 1,500 firearms, which a lot of people didn't even know and still don't know were made illegal at that point in time. And they are essentially in possession of prohibited property now and can't even use it, waiting on a buyback program that may or may not happen.
How is it a buyback program if they've never owned it?
Well, that's it. I never bought it from them, so how are they buying it back from me? And that's what a lot of people are saying.
Yeah, you guys don't have a Second Amendment, a Second Amendment there, do you?
No, we don't. Essentially, firearms in Canada are a privilege, which, in order to legally own firearms in Canada, you have to have a license. And everybody knows that once the government says you have to be licensed for something, that's not a right; it's a privilege.
Yeah. How is the process of getting a firearms license?
The process in Canada is you have to do one course, which is the possession acquisition license, which is only for hunting style firearms, so shotguns and rifles. If you wish to own pistols, then you have to do a restricted possession acquisition course. Once you've done those courses, you then have to send in the paperwork to the government. You've done the course, as well as an application and a fee, of course, for them to go over and do a background check and all a big rigmarole. With that as well, you're essentially signing away your rights to privacy because they entered onto the computer. And if you are issued a license, after that, you have a continuous eligibility. So daily, the computer runs your name through to ensure that you haven't committed any violent crimes or
So that's daily.
daily. It goes through the computer. Yes,
You say you get a background check every single day.
every single day.
Wow.
So with that, see if you can make sense of this. The government continues to try to take firearms from what's proven to be the most law-abiding citizens in Canada by that background check run daily. Yet, we can't be trusted with these firearms. Firearms still, to this day, flow fairly freely illegally across the border between Canada and the United States. Now, no way am I blaming the United States for this. It's honestly our weak politicians not willing to enforce the laws that we already have against criminals. It's so much easier to go after the low hanging fruit, the people like myself that are law abiding citizens.
All right. G Webs is talking about how the Canadian government was willing to pay for a plan for a buyback, and no company would take the contract. I think IBM has now taken that contract.
Yeah, they put it out for proposal to a few companies, and they didn't get anything to get anything. One HR company in Canada had answered a bid, and they were going to supply somebody of management or something like that. Now, the Canadian firearms community got together very quickly and applied pressure to that company, and they backed out of it, canceled the contract. Now, what appears to be IBM has been contracted to create the program that they're going to use. Now, my obviously concern with this is IBM's created other programs for the government in Canada that have gone way over budget and haven't worked properly, such as the Phoenix Pay system that's used by the government for government employees, which, if you look into that, there was huge problems. Further, this program that they're creating for here could easily be used other places with your incoming government down there and how they are. I'm not going to say totally anti-firearm, but they definitely have their leftist leanings, for lack of a better term, on that.
Oh yeah.
How hard would it be for them to use that down there as well once it's already created?
Yeah, we would have to fight that tooth and nail. Chris Shoemake has a question. He wants to know, what is the cost of firearms training?
Pardon? What was that?
What's the cost of firearms training in Canada?
The cost of training varies. It's all done by private instructors. So sometimes you can get lucky and you can find it.
You're going to be talking in Canadian dollars, probably, right?
Yes, in Canadian dollars. So depending on the day, obviously add a few more for the American because your dollar's worth more than ours. In Canadian dollars, if you're lucky, you can find each course at $80 each. That's $160. I think the average right now is about $125 each.
100, so price probably about a couple $100 US.
Well,
and once you get the training done and you send in everything, how long does it take before you actually get your license?
They say it's a minimum of 30 days. Right now, I believe the backlog is anywhere between 4 and 6 months that you're waiting. Some people have been known to wait up to a year.
Wow, that's like our NFA items. That's about the same amount of time I would have to wait to buy a machine gun here.
Yep, and that's just to buy a normal hunting rifle.
Yeah, that is crazy. Gun website says that is a great point. That it's a plan or a test run for the United States to use that program for the United States. Okay, now let's talk about the firearms that you can own because I know you cannot own. Let's like before the new restrictions. What could you own and what could you not own? Could you own machine guns? Can you own suppressors? Can you own uh, you know, magazines holding more than 10 rounds? What's the restrictions there?
The restrictions, that's where the laws can get convoluted. The Until the last year's restrictions, we could own AR-15s. They were classified as restricted firearms. So as restricted firearms, you were only allowed to use them at a gun range. You're only allowed to transport them between your house and a gun range. It's the same classification as pistols.
Wow,
Pistols
I carry a pistol
were,
everywhere, and I carry an AR-15 in my trunk.
yeah, no, we can't do that here. Definitely anything automatic is prohibited. It has been for a very, very long time. Since 1995, which was when Canadians, we know it as Bill C-68, the Firearms Act came in, any semi-automatic rifle cannot have a magazine of more than 5 rounds.
Wow,
So
that's insane.
our AR-15s, we have to have them pinned. So you can have a 30-round magazine, but it can only legally be allowed to hold 5 rounds. So whether it's by crimp or a rivet, that is the maximum capacity of that magazine.
Wow, that's insane. I think California has and New Jersey and Maryland has 10, but 5 is just insane. Is there any type of concealed carry permits in Canada? Rich wants to know. Flying Rich wants to know.
There is a permit, but I believe if you went through the public records, there's only actually like 2 or 3 issued in Canada at this time. In order to meet the criteria for a concealed carry permit, essentially you have to believe your life's in danger, and the police has to agree that your life's in danger, and they cannot adequately protect you.
Wow. So, so it's hard.
Oh, it is. It is. There is a what's called a wilderness carry permit for pistols and revolvers, which is if you're a trapper or a prospector, you can apply for that permit for protection from wildlife in the bush. But outside of that, your pistols, they are restricted classified. So once again, you can only use them at a gun range, and you can only transport them between your house and the gun range, or between your house and a gunsmith.
Wow. That is crazy because I carry a gun wherever I go, and I would feel awkward without one. So
Yeah, it's a lot of the American friends that I have. They're the same way. They have carry permits, or they live in a constitutional carry area where, yeah, they carry all the time. Where up here, the only people that have guns are your police.
yeah, okay. With the AR-15s, can they be fully featured AR-15s right now? Not the new regulations, but under the old regulations.
Under the old regulation, yes, they could be fully featured AR-15s. So, unlike the California laws, which I've looked into are ridiculous, they could be just like any AR-15 that you'd have, with the exception of they of course cannot be convertible, so they cannot accept a fully auto sear or anything like that. So then that's within your lower, of course. But your pistol grip and everything else is all perfectly legal, or was perfectly legal in Canada before the OIC ban.
Okay, now let's get into the new regulations. What did that do?
The new regulations, essentially overnight, it banned, like I said, somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,500 firearms. So anything that they could say was an AR-15 or a variant of an AR-15, including things such as the Duria Mark 12 shotgun, which looks like an AR, but it's not. Right, the function's entirely different. The BCL 102 is another good example of that, or the Stag 10, where they are patterned after the AR 10, but they're not an AR 10. They were included in the ban. The simple M305, so the Chinese version of the M1A, that was banned. The M1A was banned, of course. Most things that the way they said it, were military style assault rifles, is what they called them. So anything that even looks like one, including, of all the stupid things, the Mossberg 715T, which is it's their 715, what is it, Plankster 22, I believe. Just
Yeah,
a
so
plastic furniture to make it look like an AR, and banned.
Wait, 22. They're banning 22s that look like ARs.
Oh yes, they banned the 22 that looked like an AR. Even before this, the Canadian Firearms Lab, when they tried to bring in the Blaze 22, so once again a Mossberg 22 that looked like an AK. They didn't even look at the firearm. They saw the picture of it. It looked like an AK. They called it a variant and banned it in Canada, even though it's functionally no different than the normal semi-automatic 22.
Now, a question for you. Like, a lot of my ARs and AKs are not. I bought through private sales, plus the other ones. I have like 150 of them, and most of them the government doesn't know I have, which I think is the way it should be. But in Canada, you guys have a registry, right? So they know everything that you have.
For this would be a little bit confusing possibly, but for anything that was restricted, so pistols, AR-15s, or anything within the restricted category, there is a registry for those firearms. Anything that is like your hunting rifle and your shotgun, there is no longer registry. The Liberals did introduce that in '95. There was registry for a few years, and it was essentially a multi-billion-dollar boondoggle. It cost a ton of money, and they canceled it. A conservative government canceled it, because even the police were saying that it was useless. It wasn't helping them solve crimes. It wasn't helping stop crime or anything. It was just a waste of money. So they removed that part of the registry, but the restricted registry stayed, and that's been around for, once again, longer than I've been a firearms owner. So they know everybody that has restricted firearms. They know that are in your house, or they know what you own. So, like say, pistols, ARs, anything like that they classify as restricted, there is a registry for it. So at any given time, they can come knock on your door, and we know you have these.
Right now, there's a bunch of people trying to ban what they call ghost guns, which I have like a polymer 80, which is unfinished frame that's not a firearm that they send to you. Then you finish it and you turn it into a firearm. I also have a Ghost Gunner 3, which helps me mail out AR-15s. So they're non-serialized AR-15s and non-serialized pistols. Are you allowed to do that in Canada?
No, you're not. When it comes to a pistol, they're fully restricted, of course, and fully registered. So if you were to buy just a frame, which you can buy frames, right now it's fairly common for people to buy the TT33 frames, that comes to you as restricted with a registration certificate. With an AR, up until a couple years ago, you could purchase 80% lowers that were not completed and they were not registered or serialized. The Liberals very quickly jumped on that and made it so they were an 80% lower. So a paperweight is all they are at that point in time, was a restricted firearm. So you had to register it.
Well,
now, something funny for that to make sense of this: any restricted firearm during transport has to be an opaque case and have a trigger lock on it. So you would have to have that 80% lower in a locked case with a trigger lock on that 80% lower during transport to be legal.
That's crazy. Flying Rich wants to know how many Canadian boating accidents are there going to be?
If you follow a lot of the firearms pages, it sounds like there's going to be an awful lot of boating accidents. The common joke up here is, "Oh, I sold it to Mike from Canmore."
Mike from what?
Canmore. It's a town in Alberta.
Oh, okay, I have no idea what Canmore. We're
It's
Americans.
a big skiing place not close to Banff National Park.
We have one Canadian person, and that's you.
Yeah, well,
All right. So, how long do you have? Do you have to like when they create the buy? How long do you have before you have to turn it in? Your AR unit.
when they brought the OIC last spring, they were saying they were going to. It's a 2 years, so they were giving themselves 2 years pretty much to either come out with a way to confiscate from them, or to give a different classification of license, as it did in 1995. So they're prohibited. You can own it. We're going to give you this class of license means you can continue to own it, but you can't use it. You can't sell it. You can't do anything. And when you die, we're going to take it anyways. So let's call that confiscation by attrition, or give them those 2 years to come up with a buyback program that, of course, they'll offer pennies on the dollar by then, because as soon as you make something prohibited, it's not worth anything anymore.
If they make a confiscation program here, I don't like calling it buyback programs. I'm not going to do it. I don't think a lot of people are going to do it here. If you look at New Jersey, when they did their magazine, where they wanted you to turn in all your magazines that held more than 10 rounds, they exactly 0 was turned in.
Exactly 0.
Yeah, out of when Connecticut enacted their AR-15 registration, out of the 100,000 AR-15s in Connecticut, 50 people registered. 50 of them are now registered or something crazy like that. So there's a lot of non-compliance when they come out with this stuff in the United States. What does the non-compliance look like in Canada? Is there a lot of people that are not planning on complying, or is it different because they know that you guys have it?
Once again, it's a lot of people are saying they will not comply. And when it comes down to brass tacks, we'll see how many people actually follow through on that. Of course, the hope is that, as a group, everybody does. But there's always going to be people that are afraid of the law and afraid of what will happen, afraid of being carted off to jail, or having things seized or taken, and it makes it tough. It really does, because when they're threatening you with your livelihood, your families, everything else, it's going to go either way. I sincerely hope that mass non-compliance is what happens, but I'm not going to bet the farm on it.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. All right, we have some stupid ass firearm laws here too. For example, there's a big thing about pistol braces, because here you're not allowed to have a rifle that's with a barrel less than 16 inches unless you have it registered under the NFA as a National Firearms Act, like Class 3 weapon and whatever, Class 3 gun. Do you have anything like that? Any type of restrictions on barrel lengths in Canada, or is that one thing that you guys are a little bit more freer than us?
That is one thing we do have, is anything under 18-inch barrel on a rifle becomes semi-automatic. It also, there's an overall length that firearms have to be.
Really?
So
Okay.
yeah, 8 inches or under becomes restricted. We don't have the SBR classification like what you have. So our AR-15s, we could have 10-inch ARs, and they were still just restricted. They didn't become prohibited because of the short barrel on it. But no matter how long your barrel was, an AR could not be non-restricted. It was a restricted firearm just based on what it was.
So you don't have that restriction because everything's restricted.
Yes. Now, pistols are a different story. A pistol in Canada has to have a barrel longer than 4 inches.
Really?
Yes, 4 inches and under becomes a prohibited firearm.
Oh wow! Because I think my carry pistol has like a 3.5-inch barrel.
Yep. Pistols as well. 32 ACP pistols are prohibited by name.
32
I believe.
pistol?
What's that?
32 ACP pistols are prohibited?
Yep, by name.
Who the hell carries a 32 ACP pistol anyway?
Nobody in Canada, obviously.
Nobody in the United States, obviously, either, but that's for like a different reason. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
It's all good. So, like I said, your 32 ACPs by name. I believe the 25 ACPs by name as well. I'm not 100% sure of that one.
What did they do? Look up like calibers from like 1909 and ban them?
When they brought it in 1995 for those pistol classifications, essentially what they were doing is they were trying to, let's say, I'm going to say their idea of compromise. So we're going to tell you we want to take everything, but when you fight back, we're only going to take a little bit. We're going to call it compromise. You're still getting screwed, and we're still getting what we want, but we're going to try to make you feel good about it. So by going with that 4 inches and under, they essentially made it they can take half the pistols off the market or make them prohibited. So only prohibited owners, like prohibited licensed people, can still have them. And no more can be brought into Canada. Nobody can be sold to any restricted owner in Canada anymore. The person has to have what is called a 12.6 license classification, which is prohibited. Now, if you do not renew your license in time, if you're a 12.6 holder, you can no longer keep them. At that point in time, you have to either turn them into the government or sell them to another 12.6 holder, just if you don't renew your license in time. It's just another way for them to confiscate them. You also cannot pass them down to family members unless they were built before, I want to say it was 1947, then they become a different classification. It's they deliberately make the laws as convoluted as possible to be able to confiscate and seize as many as possible.
Okay. Guns and Barbecue says we all know that the weapon of choice in Canada, hockey sticks and hockey pucks.
I'm sorry to break this to you, my friend, but it's not hockey sticks and hockey pucks. Have you ever tried to fight a Canada Goose? That's our secret weapon.
Actually, I got chased by a Canadian goose one time.
They're mean.
Oh yeah, they're very mean. They're freaking very mean. How many in the United States? No one's really sure, but they estimate between 400 and 500 million guns, which is more guns than people in the United States. What's it like in Canada? I know you guys have like a much smaller population, but what is your like guns to population mix? If you know, if you don't know, that's fine.
I'm honestly not sure about what the exact numbers are. I believe, if I remember correctly, the number's like 7 million guns that the government knows about, but there's a lot more that they obviously wouldn't know about. Like, say, once again, prior to 1995 and the law then, no long arms were registered. The compliance level on the registration of long arms after 95, so ones that people already owned, was probably fairly low. An old farmer wasn't going to go and register as 22 or go through the licensing program. He's 80 years old. He doesn't care. It's for taking care of coyotes or whatever. There was a lot of those old guys that just kept their guns, kept their mouths shut, and didn't really care what the government was doing and never registered. And so the exact number of guns in Canada, I couldn't even come close to guessing. I believe there's 2.5 million gun owners in Canada, like licensed owners.
How many people are in Canada? How many people are in Canada?
I believe we're up to 31 or 32 million.
Okay. So I know like it's just under 50% of the U.S. are Americans are gun owners. So it's a little bit less percentage-wise and gun-wise. So you probably don't have enough. Well, I always like to see the facts where they always say the United States have more guns than any other country in the world, and I'm always like, yeah, and that's not a bad thing.
No, I think it's certainly a good thing you do, and I wish we had more up here because we'd have more of a political voice then, and the government would take us a little bit more seriously when we did do things like send in petitions as we did last year. We sent in the largest registered petition in Canadian history. And the Liberal government under Justin Trudeau pretty much looked at it, tore it in half, went, yeah, whatever, don't care.
That's insane. How about suppressors? I know in Europe because like I got my wife is a European, so my wife's a European, so we have a lot of family over there, and one of my family members over there in Italy is a huge gun person, and they're allowed to have suppressors. It's not even registered. You can just go up buy one over the counter. In Canada, can you have suppressors?
No, they're 100% prohibited.
Okay. All right. I like suppressors because they protect my ears. That's why I love shooting with suppressors.
They try to petition for that up here for hearing protection, other reasons like that, and it never got traction. It's something else where the people that watch movies, they believe that they go into a pistol, they make things 100% silent, and no matter what, you can't hear it. The Hollywood has definitely wrecked any chance of that I think ever happening in Canada is the misinformation, where
Yeah.
suppressors would be great for hearing protection at the range of that. I've got a big 338 Lapua rifle with a big muzzle brake on it, and I'm pretty sure that anybody that shoots next to me at the range absolutely hates my guts.
Yeah. Well, Mythbusters did something where they like basically said, "Hey, suppressors aren't a weapon of assassins, and they don't make a weapon like silent. They're still very loud, but it protects your ears." And I sent that someone I know that's very anti-gun, and they watched it, and they're like, "No, they're just spewing the gun propaganda, the gun lobby propaganda." I was like, "It's freaking MythBusters." It's like they're not spreading.
100%.
It's like
It's misinformation.
I mean, it's not from like GOA or NRA or FBC. It's from MythBusters on Discovery Channel. Okay, G-Webs has a question. He says you have a very anti president or prime minister, I guess it is in Canada. Once he's gone, can these laws be removed, or do you think the population is just too anti-gun to remove the laws?
It's a hot topic in politics because a lot of the population is centered in the east. So in your major city centers like Toronto, I believe Toronto, their population is almost as much of entire Western Canada combined. So those city folks really do dictate the laws and that sort of stuff. It's, as I said, a political hot topic, and the conservative government, they always tell us that, yeah, we're going to roll these things back, and they do roll some things back, but not as much as we'd like. So as much as they can get rid of some of the laws the Liberals come into, they tread lightly on it simply because they want to win the next election. And if they go too far and they upset too many of the swing votes, the next election, Liberals will be back, and then those laws will come back on the Liberals. It's a back and forth battle like that that's been going on and on. We don't, in our Charter of Rights, we don't have property rights like you have in the States. So we can't even argue it under that as being, well, it's private property, because for as far as they're concerned, well, it doesn't matter if we're going to ban it, we're going to take it. So the politics on that, it needs to be changed in such a way to ensure everybody has rights and everybody's rights are protected through law, to make it so in the future Liberal governments can't do this. And no government wants to step up and do that. They don't want to step up and say, this belongs to a person and under no way should the government be allowed to take it. They don't want to do that because it's going to lose their next election, because it's going to be the throw back and forth. The Liberals try to say, well, they want the Conservatives for everybody to be able to carry machine guns, which isn't the truth. But as you know, misinformation, as you're talking about through Mythbusters and everything else, misinformation and the mainstream media, they spread whatever they would think people want to hear.
Mythbusters is actually doing a good job. They actually said, "Hey, look, these suppressors don't make a gun silent. They're not for assassins. They're for everyday people who want to protect their hearing. and they're not like a pro gun show. They just bust myths, and yet
Yeah, sorry.
people
I understand that. It's how you followed up with that your statement before, saying that
oh,
people said that there was pro-gun propaganda.
yeah. Well, no, that's what somebody told me, and I was just like, what are you talking about?
But people will take that and carry it, and people that want to believe it are going to believe it, and they're going to spread it further to other people that want to believe it, and that essentially they try to turn a lie into the truth, and people will believe it if enough people say it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that these misconceptions um, are out there. Okay, so with the population of Canada, with guns and everything, you said Toronto kind of makes all the decisions because it's bigger than the rest of Canada. Do you think that is a good example of why the an electoral college system is a good idea?
100%. When it comes to elections in Canada, the polls have closed in Ontario, and the election's been decided before the polls have even closed here in Alberta. The what's called the 905 district, which is an area code around Toronto, which has a lot of swing votes. The elections really are decided right there. So if Quebec votes one way and Ontario votes one way, the rest of the province provinces doesn't matter what they say. That is who's going to get elected based on their population. So if we had something such as your electoral college, it may give a little bit more fairness, but I don't see that ever happening because that would require a constitutional change and for Quebec to possibly give up some of their power, which for Quebec, the power has been a huge thing for a long time and something they've, for lack of a term, fought hard for. Quebec holds more seats in our Senate because we have two levels of government like you do. Quebec holds more seats in the Senate than all the Western provinces combined. So
Oh,
their voice is huge and ours is nothing.
wow. There was a question from G Webs. Do you think teaming up with Canada, the USA, and Mexico for an American human rights to self-defense, I guess like a North American human rights to self-defense, could have any legs? Would it work for awareness?
I believe it would work for awareness. I don't know if it would actually have any real political clout in Canada, but awareness, it could help. Like it's anything that is positive media, positive awareness to get more people understanding what the truth is and what the laws already are. That would be huge. In Canada, the average non-gun owner has no idea what the laws already are that we have to abide by. They think that it's anybody can go to a store and buy a gun, and a lot of people with this COVID were rudely surprised by that. They went to one store that I know the owner, and they said, with what's going on, we want a gun, we want a protection. And he's like, well, I can sell you bear spray, but until you go through all these steps, you cannot get a firearm. And they didn't know that.
I did a FOIA request on bear spray to see how well bear spray works, and it fails like 30% of the time, which so it works 70% of the time, but 30% of the time you're going to get eaten by a bear. So
Do you know how to tell the difference between black bear crap and grizzly bear crap?
no, wait, grizzly bear
Well,
crap.
black bear crap has usually got berries in it and a little bit of hair. Grizzly bear crap smells like pepper and has bells in it.
I have no idea what that is supposed to mean.
Smells like pepper, as in pepper spray, and the bells. Those hippies like to wear the bells on their shoes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm from I'm from like right outside DC, the DC metropolitan area. So I really know nothing about the outdoors.
Okay, well, anybody listening to your program from a rural area may have gotten a chuckle out of that, and more so from the rural or urban person such as yourself having no clue.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about like reindeer or something. It's like what?
Nope. No, I'm north, but not quite that far north.
Yeah, crazy. 27% of the time the bear thanks you for the spice.
Pretty much.
Yeah, but
Because
yeah,
I work out in the wilderness, so it's I work in oil and gas here in Canada. It's Alberta's um, like Texas, but colder.
yeah,
People are much the same. We got ranches and oil and gas, and that's like my field of work is I build pipelines. So we're out in the bush where there's bears and cougars out all the time, and the people in the cities would like to think that you get attacked by bears and cougars a lot more often than you do. You don't even see them that often.
yeah, yeah. Alberta is known for the Alberta Stampede or something like that. I don't know.
Calgary Stampede.
A Calgary Stampede, yeah. Calgary's in Alberta, right?
Pardon?
Is Calgary in Alberta?
Yes, Calgary's in Alberta. It's in
Yeah,
southern Alberta.
that's what I thought. See, I don't
That's
make
where
Canadian.
Leonardo DiCaprio went to Calgary, and we have what's called Chinooks down there, which is a warm wind coming out of the west. So in the middle of winter, you can be in Edmonton and it can be -30. You can go to Calgary and it can be +5, and they're only 250 kilometers apart. Well, he was down there and a Chinook come in and he started making a big deal out of global warming, not having a clue what he was talking about.
Well, he is from Hollywood, right?
He's something special.
Hey man, Canada has some national treasures like Wolverine and Deadpool.
Wolverine or Deadpool.
Yeah, they're both Canadian superheroes. Ryan Reynolds, who has some of the funniest videos ever. He has a one for like aviation gin, and he's like aviation gin, pure American gin, owned by a Canadian.
That's awesome. Ryan Reynolds actually is I will say he's actually, I guess, a Canadian treasure for a lot of the stuff he does for like the Vancouver Children's Hospital. That he's
Oh yeah,
gone down there numerous times in costume on his own time just to go, raise kids' spirits, that sort of stuff. He's definitely a Canadian for other Canadians to be proud of.
yeah. I've seen he does a lot with also with Make a Wish Foundation and a lot of stuff with kids, like especially kids with cancer. My
Yeah.
niece has brain cancer, so that's why I like him so much because
No,
I know what these kids go through.
it's huge. There was a child in Edmonton here who was dying of cancer and wrote him a letter, and it was before the first Deadpool movie, I believe. It was either the first one or the second one. He actually came up and did a private pre-screening in the Children's Hospital with them, and they became pen pals. And right up until when the young man lost his battle, they wrote back and forth, and he even came out for the funeral afterwards. Like they became friends. Like it's the type of person he is. I don't know his political leanings, but honestly, I don't really care. It'd be nice if he could get on the um, gun rights side of things, but he's doing what's best for him, and I think what's best for everybody, and just kind of keeping his nose out of it.
Yeah, yeah, that's that's a good point. Um, so a couple questions non-gun related about Canada and the laws there. You guys also don't have a First Amendment, right? Correct? Or you do, but it's not. It's watered down.
Watered down, yes. We have your First Amendment is your free speech, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we do have the right to express, freedom of expression, and the freedom to assemble and peaceful protest. But as we're seeing right now with the COVID stuff, it is certainly watered down compared to yours, and it seems to be very easily removed at their convenience.
Well, I know there was a comedian who made fun of transgender people, and he got charged with some type of crime.
Oh, he may have been charged with a hate crime, and that's.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know what the climate's like in the States for that. Like up here in Canada, we are overall, I'd like to say, very accepting of everybody. Even in Alberta, where everybody thinks that we're backwards rednecks and that, I'd like to say the average person's political beliefs are a lot like mine. Essentially, we want gay married couples to be able to adopt children, grow marijuana, and protect it with AR-15s.
Yeah, I mean that's
So
what I like here, but uh, we're also allowed to say to speak out against anything that unless it incites violence. You can't go, hey, go kill that person over there, yell fire in a movie theater, but other than that, you can say whatever the hell you want, and you can't be charged with any crime.
our hate speech laws, I'm not entirely sure how exactly they're written, or how often they're actually enforced. I know, like, we have hate crime laws, so if you were to go and um, damage a mosque or a church or anything like that, that could be classified as a hate crime. And as a hate crime, you could, of course, face charges under that. I believe there could be some included in the speech too that you're not allowed to incite hate.
Yeah,
So that's a tricky one, because as much as I believe everybody should have their basic rights and be able to say whatever they want, people should be able to say whatever they want, but there should also there's consequences for your actions sometimes.
yeah.
So if you're saying something is going to upset a ton of people or possibly cause harm to people, then it becomes something different. Nothing we should do should cause harm to another human being, and that includes the transgender people, the gay people, the as uh, as I've been taught, essentially the LGBTQ. We're now just calling the alphabet mafia. Um, it you can't. It's not right to harm them. Whether you believe in them or not, you should not cause harm to another person.
Yeah.
There's no need for it. If they're not harming you, why would you say or do anything to harm them?
Okay. Okay. Another gun related question. Is there any restrictions on reloading in Canada?
No, there isn't. Actually, that's of all the stupid things, you have to have a license to go and purchase ammunition.
You have
You
to
do
have a
not need a license to purchase your reloading equipment or projectiles, powder, primers, or anything like that.
so you have to have a license to purchase ammunition?
Yes.
Wow. That's
It's
kind of insane.
Oh, it is. So, for an example, I can't just send, say, my neighbor, if he's going to town, he's driving past Cabela's. If he doesn't have a license, I can't ask him to grab me a box of shells for anything because he doesn't have a license. And when you go to purchase it, they ask to see your license and they look at it, they make sure it's valid and everything else.
Wow. That is that's kind of crazy.
It's entirely crazy.
Yeah, that's why I like to have people on from like different countries to talk about their gun laws. Because different
I'm happy to be here and I'm happy to do this anytime for you, John. It's good to share information, and anytime you have questions, or if any of your viewers have questions, I'd be happy to go over anything with anybody that's curious. It's as you mentioned earlier, the awareness is a huge thing, and try to make people more aware of what's going on around the world, and especially being our closest neighbor and closest ally, what's happening in Canada could very well happen down there, because that your political people are looking to Canada and looking at what we're doing, and could very well try to copy it.
Yeah. Yeah. Internet sales in Canada. Is there internet sales in Canada?
Yes, there is. I can go to any number of firearm sites on, like Canadian firearm sites online. I can purchase a firearm offline. When you do that, they take your license information and they run it through the database to make sure you're legal, and then they send you your firearm through the mail. Private sales, same thing. As there are some websites that I can sell online, but it is my responsibility to ensure that the purchaser has a license, right?
Okay.
Or, obviously I'd be breaking the law by selling to an unlicensed individual, and they'd also be by breaking the law by purchasing a firearm without a license.
Yeah. So, let me ask you this. So if you go to a Canadian website and you want to buy a gun, they run your information and then they mail you the gun directly to your house.
Yes.
That's. I would love to have that here. We don't. We have to go through. It gets mailed to an FFL.
So
And
so it has to be mailed to an FFL. Can you buy firearms offline, like say through Cabela's down there online?
yeah, but they don't run your background. They send it to an FFL that runs your background.
Okay.
But I would love to have just Cabela's run your background and send you a firearm.
It'd make it a lot more streamlined for you.
That would definitely be great. So that's one thing Canada has that we don't have.
Yeah, they just send it to you, either by courier or by literally Canada Post, like your U.S. Post system. They stick it in the mail and mail it to your front door.
That is actually I like that a lot.
It's the one thing I will say that's good about our licensing system is my understanding. You down there, when you go to buy a firearm, you have a waiting period when you purchase it. Correct?
No,
There's no waiting period when you buy a gun down there.
it depends on your state, but like in Virginia, we don't.
Okay, so if you're licensed up here, most often you can, like, if any long arm, so a shotgun rifle, if you have anything non-restricted, you go in, you pay for it, you walk out to the meeting. As soon as they see your license, right, you're good to go. With a restricted firearm, of course, the registration has to change. In Alberta, it's not uncommon for that to happen the same day. You walk in, you pick your firearm, you pay for it, they apply for the change in registration. A little while later, they get confirmation that it's changed, and you get what used to be known as the STATT, so a short-term authorization to transport. The authorization to transport a firearm is now part of your license. It used to be a separate piece of paper for every firearm, welcome to Liberals. So you had to get that piece of paper and your registration before you could take it home. Now, like, so once again in Alberta, not uncommon to be same day. You go to some places in Ontario, I've heard of people waiting up to 6 weeks for a change in registration.
Oh wow. G-Web said there is only 9 states with the waiting period in the United States. So 41 states you walk out the same day.
Okay. I was under the impression it was more than that.
No, it's only like 9.
Okay.
They probably want to give you the impression there's more than that, just because that's what they do.
Well, of course.
Yeah. So where do you see Canadian firearms laws going from here? Do you think they're going to get more restrictive? Do you think they're going to get less restrictive? What do you think?
As long as it is anytime we have a Liberal government, they're going to try to make it more restrictive. It is a big part of their platform. And they continue to try to make the laws, as I see it, worse and worse, or most firearms owners see it, and make it harder to legally possess and use firearms as much as they can. It's this last time they said they used an OIC, which we see as being undemocratic because there was no discussion about it. It was just overnight. Yep, this is done. Or they'll pass more laws, and those laws could be anything from, they'll ban pistols altogether. Say right now, instead of just being restricted, they're just going to prohibit them like the AR-15s. Or well, as part of the OIC, one of the things that they banned was anything with a muzzle energy over 10,000 joules. So people that owned 50 caliber rifles, or even I think the 404 Gibbs and a bunch like that they do, like your big African game rifles, became prohibited as well because they produce too much muzzle energy in there, which makes no sense at all. That, as much as they're not going after hunting rifles or going after military style assault rifles, they deliberately banned hunting rifles. And that's going to continue. It'll be down to, some places in the world that have laws that each rifle is registered individually, and you have to have a reason for owning that particular rifle. So you need something for coyotes, or you can have a 223. oh, you want to go big game hunting, you can have nothing more than a 308. Like, they will try to push it to that point because it's part of their party platform. They don't believe that civilians should have firearms.
Yeah. So Canadians hunt a lot, right?
Yes, well, depending where
In
you are.
Alberta.
Yeah, Alberta hunting is huge out here.
Yeah, that's what I've heard about Alberta. I'm kind of familiar. I'm not a huge hockey fan, so I have to know all the different things in Canada because Hockey Canada,
I certainly hope you're an Oilers fan then.
No,
No,
no. Hold
you're
on.
not a Toronto fan, are you?
Uh, if you look at my wall here, it's full. I got a wall that is let's see, Sports Illustrated all caps. Champs in 2018 caps. Sports Illustrated Ovechkin. Washington Post finally. TSN, the Capitals win Stanley Cup. I got Braden Holtby making the save. I got a Stanley Cup ticket framed. I have Capitals hockey, like used hockey sticks from the Capitals on my wall. I have Winter Classic stuff. I have autographs from Backstrom, Ovechkin. I have a hockey helmet signed by all the Caps players from the 2015 team.
That's quite the collection.
I have a part of the net where Ovechkin scored his 500th goal.
Holy crap.
Yeah, I have an assigned Ovechkin hockey stick. Got a signed hockey stick from Rod Langway and Kevin Hatcher and some of the old people. Scott Stevens. So yeah, I would say I'm a Caps fan.
I would certainly say you're a big Caps fan.
100%.
At least from what you're listing off there, Washington Post, they definitely got it right when they said finally.
Yeah, 40 like 40 years. 39, but whatever. But yeah, I'm a huge Caps fan. G Web wants to know: is there any big game, big animals in Canada? Like most of your wildlife are the size of a koala bears, right? I think that was a joke.
Yeah,
You have
yeah, definitely enjoy it. There's certain some big game up here. Of course, we have our grizzly bears. Like your Alaskan browns, polar bears, even bigger yet. The moose. I don't. Do you have moose over there?
probably, yeah. I think it's in Minnesota.
Oh, well, a moose.
In Washington, not Washington, Minnesota and like Maine.
Yeah, but Minnesota and Maine would have moose for sure. So and those are well over 1,000-pound animals. They're big and they're actually kind of dumb.
We have polar bears in the United States too.
Pardon?
We have polar bears too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you get up into Alaska, you have polar bears.
Yeah.
But I don't count Alaska. They're, I don't know, kind of like your redheaded stepchild.
Alaska, we get a lot of oil from Alaska, so there's that.
A lot of good people come out of Alaska. We, being in this area, the Alaska highways here, so most often I'm out working and staying in my travel trailer in places, and I get to share campgrounds with a lot of Alaskans traveling back and through between the main United States, I guess the lower 48 and up there. And I don't think I've met a single one I didn't like.
Yeah,
every single one was just a great person.
GeoWeb says Canada is Alaska light. Yeah, Canada's. Like Alaska's freaking massive, and it's really close to Russia. People don't realize that. Yeah, but yeah, it's definitely. I definitely want to go back to Canada. I went to a couple places in Canada. I went to like New Brunswick. I didn't really like New Brunswick. And then I went to Nova Scotia, which I loved Nova Scotia.
It's really nice out there on the East Coast. And I'll personally give the invite if you ever make your way up to the Edmonton, Alberta area. I live about 30 minutes north of Edmonton. Make it up here. Maybe come up for a hockey game. I'd be more than happy to have you over to my home, and we can have a meal and talk over guns face to face. And you meet my wife, who's staring at me, wondering what's taking me so long.
Yeah, well, we're about done here. We've been on for an hour, and I do want to thank you. I'm going to do my plugs, and I'll give you the final word like I always do. Remember, we are sponsored by Heavenly Natural Products. Go to heavenlyc60.com. Also, Tusk, which is a cryptocurrency focused around guns. This is my awesome watch here from Peace Times 38. Thank you for Hank Strange for the patches and the little model gun and the shirts and everything else. I really appreciate it. We will be back next week with some more awesome guests. Got some really cool people that I think you guys are really going to like, some new guests to the show. I have a Patreon, patreon.com/John Crump. Also, there's a join button below. Hit that join button and join the Crumpy Militia. There's different levels. You get some free stuff, some free shirts, some free patches. So they're really, really cool stuff that you can get by hitting that join button. And you support the channel like me and everything else. Joe Drag says, Prayer Sabella. I want to give a shout out to Joe Drag. He is the first person who joined my join button. I just activated it yesterday. Yep. And that is it. A really sad thing is I was supposed to, I had an all expense paid trip to go drive tanks, fire miniguns, and actually shoot tanks. But stuff happened, and I can't go anymore because of stuff. My niece isn't doing too well, so I'm not going to leave to go. So thank you to the Gundies for, inviting me out to Texas to go drive tanks and shoot miniguns, but so be it. All right. I'm going to give you the final word, and then we're going to get out of here.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me, John. I've enjoyed my time here. I want to thank my friend Matt for making the introduction between the two of us. Matt's been a friend of mine for a long time.
Matt's the producer on the show.
Pardon?
Matt is officially our producer.
Oh, he's officially your producer. Okay, well, Matt's been a friend of mine for a long time. I have a lot of respect for him, and I've enjoyed watching everything he's been trying to do for the gun owners there in the United States. So it's anything that I can do to help you guys out at all, I'm more than happy to do it. And just as I said earlier, if you ever make it up here for a hockey game, you're more than welcome to come sit at my table. Thank you very much for having me, John.
Thank you. On Saturday, I think we're going to be doing a special. I forgot to mention this. And it will be a roundtable discussion of everything that's going on in our country, with the Capitol being taken over yesterday, which is kind of insane. And all the protests happening over the summer and stuff like that. The people fighting tooth and nail against each other. We're going to have a roundtable discussion with people who have very widely varying opinions on stuff. So tune in on Saturday at 10 p.m. And that is it. And we are out of here. Stay right there, Sean. I'll be right back with you in 1 second. Just want to thank you one more time.